there's no question that Latinos are the fastest growing demographic in the country, and there's no better place that's reflected than in Texas. And so there's a lot of first-time voters in the Hispanic community. And so we want to make sure that they take advantage of that privilege and that they know how to do it. Because Hispanics, do have some conservative values, whether it's through religion or upbringing or community, we can't deny the fact that most of the millennials are Hispanic, the people that are coming up, which means they're young, which means they've grown up with a more tolerant view of the world, whether it's sexual equality, marriage equality, equal pay, reproduction rights. I mean, and I'm hoping that this younger generation, which tends to be largely Hispanic, will help with those issues that particularly we're having here in Texas. So it'll be interesting. I think Hispanics are a little split on it. One of the main strategies that we have with Hispanics is voter education. I mean, just making them aware of how policies disproportionately affect them, whether it's access to healthcare or access to quality education or access to reproductive freedom. A lot of people want to know, well, how does this affect me? And I think that's all Americans, but specifically with Hispanics. So we want to make sure that there's no apathy, that there's true engagement and knowing how does this affect your pocketbook. At the end of the day, if you vote for this candidate has done this and this and this, or this candidate has not passed this and this and this. And so sometimes when you just break it down into personalizing, how does this affect me? Why should I vote? You have to have a good answer for that. And that's what everybody's out there is asking, especially in the Hispanic community. Do I matter? We say, yes, you matter. Well, there's no question that it disenfranchises a certain population. Whether you're poor, or you're a person of color, or you live in rural areas, or whether you're young. It really disenfranchises many groups. There's many people who will have to drive 300 miles to the place to get the proper identification and then drive back, and that's an undue burden. When you have an undue burden, it is not reasonable to put that restraint. And the interesting thing is, I don't know why United States makes it harder for people to vote. Many other countries vote on a Saturday, they vote on weekends, they have extended early voting. Some countries it's against the law if you don't vote. I mean, we'll never go to that extreme, but it's interesting how hard we fought to really make the vote open to everybody, but yet we kind of limit it to only a Tuesday, and early voting shorter, and now you need this documentation. So that's what we're doing today, is really going out and making sure people have a plan, that they have an idea of what they need and where they need to go, and how long it will take, and that they can really allot the time to exercise their civic duty. Battleground Texas is interesting and effective because they're very grassroots oriented. And I think that was the success of being on the Obama campaign and seeing their ground operation. It really takes a door-to-door approach, and I think that's something Battleground Texas is doing really well. I was part of the Futuro Fund, which helped fundraise for the national election. And we had such success. We raised over $32 million. With over 150,000 donors. So that's a lot of donations. And a lot of people that we went to for donations were people who had never been asked before. And so we tapped into a whole new, not only donor base, but a whole new community that wants to be involved and wants to have a voice. So after the national election was done, we wanted to continue to harness this new community that wanted to be involved and wanted to be engaged, and we decided to start the Latino Victory Project. And it has two arms. There's a PAC side, and then there's also a charity side in which we are trying to develop a pipeline of Latino candidates who represent American values, and we want to support that pipeline of future politicians. The ultimate dream goal for Latino Victory Project is that we don't need it. That would be the goal. We don't want to have to go and target certain races to make sure that our candidates win. And, you know, with Citizens United and the amount of money being poured into certain campaigns, that doesn't necessarily produce the best candidate. So Latino Victory Project is having to go and support these candidates who really represent amazing American values, but who are losing or are in a really tight race because of money. And so, you know, the ultimate dream is that we don't need a Latino Victory Project in the future, that it's a fair playing ground with people who are authentic and people who just want to move this country forward.